Unitarian Universalist Church. I'm the Reverend Tiffany Anderson, the minister of this church, and my pronouns are she and her, and I am so happy to be with all of you today. We're starting to feel a little festive here in December, and so our opening hymn is number 235, Deck the Halls. Our halls won't actually get decked here until Saturday, but we can get in the spirit now. So please rise in body or spirit and let's sing together. Worship is Hey Universe by Kate R. Walker. This reading and many more can be found in the book Conversations with the Sacred, a Unitarian Universalist collection of prayers. Hey Universe, I see you. From atomic dust to stardust, you exist, and I exist in and through you. This I do not doubt. From eagle's view to mouse, what do you see? Am I mere food for thought? Does my existence bear meaning? For you? Or only me and my beloved? Do they see me, from mother and father to goddess, Jesus, and the Atman Brahman? I yearn to be seen. Yes, I exist, but do they see me, really see me? And do you? Am I more than a step in evolution? My heart is tender, raw even, with the pain of existence. Surely all that I bear will leave a trail for others to follow, like Arius to Severus, and Fuller to Bentoncourt and Frederick Gray. Let my faith guide others, my faith in you and them and me. Holy, holy, holy. Acts of the creative universe, impulse to existence from atomic dust to stardust. If not I, let my faith be seen in acts of love as broad as the universe, never ceasing, never ending. Blessed be all of creation. Please sit with me in silence as we center ourselves.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Jen, and I'm your service leader for today. I serve this community as on the Religious Services Committee, and I've been attending church here since 2007 with you wonderful people. If you're visiting us for the first time today, you're especially welcome. Lori is at the visitors table in the back by the door, and she can help get you oriented if you have any questions. If you have little ones, our greeters can show you the way to the nursery, which is available during the service for children ages 6 and younger, and kids are very welcome in this sanctuary. Today, we invite Doug to come help us with our chalice lighting. Doug is a do-it-yourself kind of guy, and he enjoys University of Tennessee sports. As Doug lights the chalice, please join me in saying our vision statement, which is printed in our bulletin. We work together as a church to transform ourselves, our community, and our world by sharing love, pursuing justice, and seeking wonder.
Today's story for all ages is about a candle who goes on an adventure. I need you all, and especially you kids, to help me with the story by making a sound effect for a candle flame. Every time I say hiss, I want all of you to say crackle, sizzle, pop. Can you do that? Let's try it. Hiss. Crackle, sizzle, pop. Think you got it. And I'm sure it'll get better as we go along. Once upon a time, there was a candle named Rory who lived in a world full of candles called candelabrum, where candles burned very, very slow and thought thoughts and felt feelings. They burned so slow, in fact, that they lived for about as long as we do. And you could tell how long a candle had lived, not by the color of their hair or how many wrinkles that they had, but by how short they had become as they burned throughout their lives. Rory was a very young candle, towering tall above their parents, and like most candles, Rory had a very special relationship with their flame. Whenever Rory felt uncertain or scared, they would close their eyes and feel the flame dancing in their hair and then hiss. Crackle, sizzle, pop. They would feel more like themselves once again. Candelabrum custom is that once a candle burns down to a certain height, they need to give their flame a name. But when it was time for Rory to name their flame, they just couldn't find the right word. All they knew was that anytime they needed to, they could feel the flame dancing above them and hiss, crackle, sizzle, pop. They would feel so much better. Rory's parents had both named their flames Haven many years ago. For them, what made them happiest of all was the peace and security that they felt in the safety of their home. But as Rory thought about their own flame, hiss, crackle, sizzle, pop, Rory knew that a cozy home wasn't what made them burn bright and warm. So Rory left home to go on a journey and see if they could find a name for the flame that made them feel so much like themselves. Rory encountered many different kinds of candles in the world with a lot of different names for their flames. Out in the world, Rory encountered a candle who had named their flame Diversion. This candle's flame flickered erratically, always changing in shape and size as they moved from one entertainment to another. This guy hung out with a bunch of other candles that had also named their light diversion. Rory didn't find this fulfilling for long and found a moment to just sit with their flame. Hiss, crackle, sizzle, pop, and they realized that whatever their fire was called, they needed more purpose than this, and they moved on. They met candles who named their fire money and never seemed content, and candles that named their fire control that didn't seem to mind when their flame melted someone else down, and the ones who named their flame certainty that got very angry when Rory wouldn't name their flame certainty too. And the ones who named their fire validation, that were always asking others to tell them that their flame had worth. But Rory knew that their flame had worth when they got real quiet and just paid attention to the gentle warmth and the subtle light. Hiss, crackle, sizzle, pop. Rory also noticed on their journey that candles seemed to group up according to how they named their flames. Rory decided that whatever they named their light, they wanted to be with lots of different candles, with lots of different names for their flames. This idea excited Rory so much that their fire leaped with a hiss, crackle, sizzle, pop. That's a cool flame, Rory heard a voice behind them exclaim. What do you call it? Rory turned to see a candle that was much shorter than them, even shorter than their parents. Rory knew this candle had been burning for a long time. I can't figure out what to name my flame, Rory said, bracing themselves for the questions, the looks, the unsolicited advice. Instead, this much shorter candle's flame danced excitedly with a hiss, crackle, sizzle, pop. What an exciting journey you must be on, she said with a smile. Rory laughed. I guess that's one way to put it. This not knowing thing is tough, but anytime I try to name my flame, it just doesn't fit. The short candle nodded. I've been where you are now. Believe it or not, I even changed the name of my flame a few times. You can do that? Rory asked, as their flame went hiss, crackle, sizzle, pop. I don't see anyone stopping me, the short candle chuckled. I eventually settled on interdependence a while back, but I figure if my flame changes again, I can too. Rory considered the word interdependence briefly, but it didn't quite make their flame hiss, crackle, sizzle, pop, which was too bad because they really liked this short, smiling candle. Would you like to meet some of my friends? The kindly old candle asked. Rory didn't know that there would be much point when they had already felt that interdependence wasn't the right name for their flame, but the candle had been so kind, and they didn't have anything better to do, so why not? And when Rory went around with the short, smiling candle, they did meet one or two candles with a flame called interdependence, but they also met a pair of candles with flames named justice. And the strangest multicolored candle that had their flame named pluralism. And candles working together in a group with flames called equity, generosity, and transformation. And so many interactions with this community of candles inspired Rory's flame to hiss, crackle, sizzle, pop, until Rory realized that it was the community itself that inspired their dancing flame, and they said with great joy, "My flame is named love. Aw. Now, we here may not be candles, but we each have a light, a fire inside of us, metaphorically speaking. I hope it's metaphorically speaking. If you were to name your flame in this moment, what would you call it? Holler it out if you want. Hope, transformation, justice, gratitude, revolution, evolution, either work, community, resilience, gardening. I think I heard something about hope, wonder, friendship, joy. Yes, yes to all of those. Those are all great names for your flames, and we're allowed to keep changing those names whenever we want. I hope that whatever you call it, that you can listen to what is most important to you on all of your adventures in life. One of our flames tended by this community is generosity. 4 times a year, our Social Justice Committee identifies nonprofit organizations aligned with our values to receive a special offering. This quarter, we've chosen Second Harvest to be our recipient, and Kristen Reedy is here to talk about their work in our community. Thank you for being with us, Kristen.
Okay, I've got the thumbs up from the sound tech guys. Thank you so much for having me this morning. This church is my jam, let me just tell you. As a person who grew up Pentecostal evangelical, the first 5 minutes are better than the 25 years I spent growing up. So let's just get that out of the way. I'm the development director for Second Harvest. Thank you, Reverend Anderson, for the setup, because flame, light, hope, equity, justice, those are pillars that we have at Second Harvest. If you come, and I hope that you will come and visit us. We're at the old Sam's Club at the airport exit, and it's sort of like a Sam's Club. A lot of times folks think food banks, so you think soup kitchen, you think a direct program, you think Meals on Wheels, and we are involved in those, but what we do for an 8-county region from western North Carolina down right above Knoxville to Greenville and Rogersville is we source food in bulk. We turn about 1 million pounds of food over in the warehouse every month. So that was about 13.5 million pounds last year. I saw that you all were involved in some Hurricane Helene relief. We were pivotal in that work, trying to get food to agencies that had been affected and to folks individually who had been affected. We have 110 partner agencies, and that is the majority of how we get food out to our neighbors who are food insecure. We have 1 in 5 kiddos in our 8-county region who are food insecure, 1 in 7 adults over 18 who are food insecure. I know you all are plugged in to advocacy, and you understand how the last couple of months have been. The time after COVID has increased the number of folks who are food insecure. And when we talk about that, it's not necessarily folks who are living in poverty. These are people who self-identify that they don't know where their next meal is coming from, or they don't have enough to feed themselves or their families. A lot of our folks are families, and they are the working poor. And so you have individuals who are working 2 jobs, minimum wage, sometimes more than 2 jobs, and they have 2 or 3 kiddos, and they just don't have enough, and they have to make those hard decisions. I also saw in the bulletin, is somebody going to give me like the Oscars a 5-minute warning? Because I will talk the entire morning about Second Harvest. Somebody going to like wave and say, 2 minutes? Are you serious? Okay. These are folks who are your neighbors. It's people that you see at the subway. It's people that work in our communities who are working hard to provide for their families. And you all know, if you go to the grocery store, you know how much groceries cost. So with our buying power that we have at the warehouse, we source from the USDA. This is your tax dollars at work, which is great. Dawn came and did a tour for that. But if you would come into the USDA section of the warehouse, you would see a pallet of peanut butter. You would think, I go to the grocery store, I buy a jar of peanut butter. It's anywhere between $4 and $5. We can source an entire pallet of peanut butter, maybe 100 cases, and it will be $50 because we have the buying power, and that is your and our tax dollars at work for the USDA, which go USDA for that. We're going to give them credit for something. Let's give them credit for that. And we also do Walmart, Food City, Food Lion, Publix. We source from those individuals as well, and we're part of the Feeding America network. That's 200 food banks across the country, and so we have buying power for those. So when we talk about spending $1 at the grocery store or giving $1 to a food bank, we can provide 3 meals for that $1. And so those are sort of the tenets of how we're doing what we're doing. We do want to transform the community. We would love to be out of business. We have other direct service programs where we are sort of connecting folks to rental assistance, car payment, your electric bill. When people come in, we can put them in our system called Strong ACC, and we do that as well. So we're trying to do a support network for individuals. He said 2 minutes, 30 seconds ago, Dawn. Okay. So if you have questions, please call me. Dawn has my number. We would love to have you volunteer. We can't do it without volunteers. If you think about the Sam's Club warehouse, we did 8,000 holiday boxes, and those boxes fed a family of 4. We could not have done that without our volunteers. Almost 28,000 volunteer hours last year. We're on course to break that this year. It's going to get worse. It's hard now, and it's going to get harder. Folks are struggling. We're seeing people we've never seen before. We're seeing lots of seniors. We're seeing grandparents raising children. The family structure, when you don't know where food is coming from, that's our goal. We want to stabilize families so that they can spend their time and resources staying together and doing what they need to do to support themselves. Am I done? Okay. Thank you so much. I'm grateful to be here. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Kristen. There are white envelopes in your orders of service that you can use during the offering that's at the end of the service to give money to Second Harvest. Anything in the envelope will go directly to Second Harvest. Just drop them in the offering plate at the end of the service or the black box by the door. If you don't have an envelope for some reason, there are a few by the black box by the door.
If they didn't bring enough money, can they go to the web and donate?
So we even have a link to Second Harvest in our e-news, and you can give that way, but it's not recorded as coming from us that way, and we do kind of like to brag about our generosity. So if you have the ability to give today, please do, but definitely just give however you can. You write the check to us, but just put Second Harvest in the line or just put it in the white envelope and we'll make sure it gets transferred to them. Yeah, thank you. What a joy. Thank you, James. We are invited to this table of light to share our joys and sorrows. If you have a joy or a sorrow to share with us in person, please use these candle cards, which are located on the back table. And if you have a joy or concern that you'd like to share from a distance, you can email me at minister@hvuuc.org. I want to start with a thank you note that we got. This is from the Appalachian Service Project. Dear Holston Valley Unitarian Universalist Church, we just wanted to take a moment to say thank you for being such a lifesaver for Appalachian Service Project this year. In the months following Hurricane Helene, your willingness to serve made all the difference when we were truly in a crunch for local volunteers. Your partnership has strengthened our ministry and helped families experience hope and relief when they needed it most. We're so grateful for your heart to serve alongside us and for the impact you've made in our community. With deep appreciation, the Appalachian Service Project team. A candle of joy from Betty and Mike. Thankful we can both still attend HVUUC, our loving community, even though we both have health concerns and now some memory issues. Please overlook our mistakes if we say anything unusual. Betty and Mike. I like that. I hope everyone overlooks my mistakes when I say anything unusual as well. And a candle of joy from Ray Hatch. My candle card of love, joy, gratitude, celebration, and wonder. Today is a very special day. Today, Pearl Harbor Day, Cindy and I celebrate our 20th wedding anniversary. It has been a loving, interesting, fun, and rewarding adventure. Today is also the start of Cindy's birthday week/month. That's how you do it. On Wednesday, December 10th, Cindy will officially become a septuagenarian. Turning 70 will be a true accomplishment for the perpetually accident-prone Cindy. I'm just reading what's on the card. So please congratulate Cindy on making it to 70. Finally, when we joined HVUUC, Phyllis asked us as part of our introduction to the congregation to describe ourselves in 50 words. The first 5 words that popped into my head were, lucky guy, married to Cindy. Congratulations, Cindy and Ray. We invite you to come to this table to light a candle for your joys or sorrows, or raise your hand and I will light a candle for you. During this time, you may also, if you have money for the kids' collection for hunger, instead of putting it in the basket that's not here, you should put it in the white envelope for Second Harvest. And our community is so much larger than just those who are in the building this morning, so we light a candle to hold space for those who are not physically present with us, but are ever in our hearts. we light a final candle for all that remains unspoken in our hearts and minds. Becoming a Unitarian Universalist minister was a 3-month intensive internship at a hospital that we call CPE, Clinical Pastoral Education. I learned so much in that brief period of time wandering the labyrinthine halls of the VA here in Johnson City. It is labyrinthine. I learned how to accompany people on the worst days of their lives. I was introduced to practices that brought greater self-awareness, and most importantly for today, I was challenged to start figuring out how to talk about my religious identity as a Unitarian Universalist. Not always, but often, when I entered the room and introduced myself as a chaplain, one of the first things a patient or their partner would do was ask about what faith tradition I was coming from. I felt extremely awkward identifying myself as Unitarian Universalist. People almost always gave me a confused look. But I learned quickly that confusion and ignorance was preferred over those who recoiled because of misinformation they had received from their religiously conservative pastors about us. I figured out really fast that if I was going to go into this line of work, I needed to get thicker skin. And that I was going to have to learn to talk about what Unitarian Universalism is and why it is important to me. I imagine that for most of you all, the challenge to talk about your Unitarian Universalist identity probably isn't as urgent of a challenge as it was for me. And yet, I think it's still a really important skill to practice. Living here in the South, religion comes up all the time. And how we're going to respond to those invitations to conversation matter. It's tempting to try to avoid it all. Pretend like we're receiving an urgent call, or just remember that we have an appointment. But whether it's a family member's holiday dinner, or our kids' teacher asking us questions, or our neighbor invites us to church, or a date asks us about our religious beliefs, spending a little bit of time thinking about what matters to us and why can make a big difference in these conversations. Learning to speak authentically about what matters to us is a practice that stretches us and helps us grow and can even help us think critically about our beliefs. Talking about matters of ultimate meaning can create and strengthen bonds with our conversation partners. And every once in a while, we might get lucky and they might just want to come check out this beautiful little community of love and acceptance here in Gray. At the risk of sounding evangelical, I think the world needs more Unitarian Universalists in it. Okay, that wasn't too controversial. want to do old school proselytizing. But it really stuck with me that last week in her introduction, Jess said that she had been in the Tri-Cities for years and didn't know we existed. I'd really like us to be visible enough that the people who will experience healing and joy from finding us can do so. Back around the time that I was having these awkward conversations at the VA, the president of the Unitarian Universalist Association, William Sinkford, was introducing the idea of elevator speeches through UU World magazine. The elevator speech is a very brief, like 3 sentences brief statement prepared to answer the question, what's a Unitarian Universalist? It was called an elevator speech because the idea was that it needed to be brief enough to say during a quick elevator ride with someone you just met. Here's one of the briefer examples written by Reverend Jonalou Johnstone and published in the 2003 issue of UU World magazine. In Unitarian Universalist congregations, we gather in community to support our individual spiritual journeys. We trust that openness to one another's experiences will enhance our understanding of our own links with the divine, with our history, and with one another. That sounds pretty good, right? These are great words. They represent a lot about what is meaningful to me about Unitarian Universalism. But any elevator speech is going to sound like a pre-written dialogue that doesn't really fit the context of your interaction. Kind of like an old video game where you would just walk up to an NPC and press A to see what happens. When so much of spiritual importance is about relationship and connection, a pre-written elevator speech disconnected from the context of conversation doesn't feel terribly useful to me, with one exception, and it's a really important exception. When we look at putting together an elevator speech as a practice for ourselves to help us grow in our understanding of ourselves and how to communicate matters of ultimate meaning, rather than a brief speech that we say at someone, I think it can be immensely valuable. President Dwight Eisenhower was famous for saying, "Plans are worthless, but planning is everything." And it's true of writing elevator speeches. Elevator speeches are the plan. I've never actually recited an elevator speech at anyone, but planning one did prepare me to talk about the things that matter to me most with others. So today is an invitation for us to each consider our own elevator speeches as a personal practice. And I've got some tips to help us out as we consider how to communicate these things that matter the most to us. For starters, I think it's important to recognize that a lot of us, when we're talking about Unitarian Universalism, generally start by talking about what it is not. We don't tell people what to believe. We don't hate on people or shame them, stuff like that. That's because so many of us have come to Unitarian Universalism from a different religious experience that wasn't pleasant enough to make us want to stay. Raise your hand if you were not raised as a Unitarian Universalist as a child. Yep. And I treasure the people who don't raise their hand because they have such a different perspective, but most of us have this perspective of leaving one path to come to this one. So it's only natural that a lot of us will think of our current religious experiences in contrast to our previous ones. But telling someone what we're not doesn't actually say that much. They can experience not that on their couch. Instead, we can take that statement about what we're not and pivot it. We can talk about freedom of conscience rather than how no one is dictating our beliefs. We can talk about acceptance rather than shame, love rather than hate, justice rather than oppression. Another thing we can do is make it personal. Unless we really are talking to a stranger in an elevator about our religion, which honestly sounds awful to me, then we are likely talking to someone we already have some kind of relationship with. Unless they're at our doorstep trying to convert us, they are probably more interested in our personal stories than they are in hearing sterile sound bites that they could easily find with just a few minutes of Googling. And likewise, when a conversation comes out of relationship and context, we will usually understand what our conversation partner values and be able to relate specifically to their interests. Thanks to relationship, we'll have an idea of which of our values, or which of our social justice projects, or which of our small group ministries would actually be exciting to them to hear about. So, like most real conversations, it's a give and a take where we share ourselves and learn about each other. We can take a little risk and share something real about ourselves, whether it's I finally found a place where my skepticism wouldn't just be tolerated, but would be enthusiastically welcomed. Or this community is doing their part to feed the hungry and stand up for justice, and I'm so happy to be working with them. Or even, I have been challenged to grow in ways I never could have imagined because every week I get to talk with someone who believes things dramatically different from me. I think this sort of sharing is more effective than a traditional elevator speech, because the truth is anyone can define Unitarian Universalism by going to uua.org, but only you can tell your friends and your loved ones why this faith with the really long name is helping you become who you've always wanted to be. It may even help to prepare for these kinds of conversations by spending some time thinking about what you would name your flame, like Rory in our story. What's your purpose? What's your sense of ultimate meaning? What brings you energy and inspiration and makes you feel alive? What makes your spirit go, hiss, crackle, sizzle, pop? And how does that connect to your understanding of Unitarian Universalism? Has this community fueled your flame? How? Let's pause a minute to really consider that. What would you name your flame? How does that tell the story of who you are and your relationship with this community? Maybe your elevator speech is seeded by this word, so that you can say, my religion is about blank. If you don't like the word religion, pick another one. And maybe the blank is love, or maybe it's acceptance, or integrity, or truth. But one word isn't an elevator speech. It's a conversation starter, and I like that much, much better. Thinking up an elevator speech can set us up to have good conversations because it means we've taken the time to be thoughtful about what our values and principles are and what behaviors flow out of those values and principles. This means that we've thought about what this religion of Unitarian Universalism looks like when it gets hands and feet and a voice and goes off into the world. And of course, we are the hands and the feet and the voice on the streets and in the city council meetings, stocking the giving tree and helping people move and showing absolutely everyone that they are always worthy of love and deserve to be treated with dignity no matter what. Because maybe a life that's congruent with our religious identity is the very best elevator speech of all. What if we were prepared to tell people who we are and what's important to us, but that we excelled at showing them that by how we live our lives? By approaching our relationships with kindness and humor, by approaching our work as a citizen with passion and determination, by looking out for our fellow human beings whenever we can. Those are just my examples, but I wonder how you can conceive your life as a living elevator speech, how your actions connect to your values, and what word would you describe that core of what's important to you? We Unitarian Universalists have no resources to point our minds, hearts, and deeds in the direction of meaning. We have our 7 historic principles, which are on the front page of our orders of service. We have our values of pluralism, interdependence, generosity, justice, equity, transformation with love at the center. We have the wisdom that we have gathered from our own earnest seeking and the broad perspective we gain from being in community with each other. 10 years ago, as I scurried from one hospital room to another, ready and willing to help other people in their quests for truth and meaning, but still really uneasy about talking about my own, someone actually handed me my favorite elevator speech. I was sitting with a woman all day while she waited for her husband to get out of surgery when she asked me the classic question of what religion I was. I said I was Unitarian Universalist and that she had probably never heard of it. But then she told me about her niece and how all her niece wanted was to marry the woman that she loved, and how when no one else would do their wedding, the Unitarian Universalist welcomed them in and facilitated their marriage. And then she said, I know exactly who you are. You're the church that loves everyone. And that's become my answer. But the beauty of this community is that that doesn't have to be your answer. There's a lot of room here, not to believe absolutely anything we want. There are beliefs antithetical to love and beliefs antithetical to justice and generosity, but there's a lot of room under this great big umbrella that celebrates the human journey and invites us to do our part in healing the world. And that's something that feels incredible to be part of. Something that I do want to share with others when the time feels right, which I can do more effectively when I've given a little thought and a little practice. I just might not do it to a stranger in an elevator.
We believe that many streams join to make a river, that the way to wisdom lies in an open ear and heart, that goodness may be pursued for the sake of goodness and not from fear of punishment, that knowing and not knowing are part of the same, that ambiguity is permissible. Thank you for being with us here today. We'd love it if you could stay for coffee hour. This coffee hour is host to the Green Arts Festival. This annual event gives us all the chance to do a little holiday shopping by supporting the artists and artisans in our congregation. We'll be in the Fred Ballroom here. Next Sunday is Festivals of Light and Potluck. Come join us for a celebration of growing light and then stay to feast with us at Potluck. Potluck will highlight holiday treats. Please bring your treats and a recipe. The recipe will be placed beside the treats. That way, if anyone wants your recipe, they can just take a picture of it. All are welcome, without or with a treat, either way. And if you'd like to help deck the halls the day before Festivals of Light, a team of decorators will descend upon the congregation from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. this Saturday to cover this place in evergreens. All are welcome. And if you want to, you can trim the evergreens around your home before you come and bring those with you to help decorate. And don't forget that we're still collecting for the giving tree. Last week, Sarah shared with us a little bit, new thought. Last week, Sarah shared with us a little bit about her Soul Summit Leadership Retreat and how it supports Southern Unitarian Universalists grow as people and grow their church too. In case we have more people interested than we have spots, there will be a fair and easy application process to help our board choose who to send this year. If you're interested in attending Soul, talk to any of your board members or Reverend Tiffany, or keep an eye out for the Leadership Opportunity Interest Form that will be appearing in your e-news soon. Our closing hymn is number 118, This Little Light of Mine. We also collect our offering during our closing hymn. Our congregation is funded largely by the donations we make through pledges and plate offering.
This week and every week. If you haven't seen a collection plate yet, it is on the way. And in the meantime, receive this benediction. May justice lead us to the calling of this moment. May wonder meet us right where we're at. May we find our collaborators and our companions. And may love guide us on our journey of transformation. Blessed be, amen, and go in peace.
Yay, church!